Good morning, Nora. Donna's here. Good morning. Joyce is here. Let's see who else. Catherine. Good morning, Catherine. All right. Well, happy Friday. We'll go ahead and get started. Real quick, Donna, I wanted to ask if you got any results back yet?
I haven't. It's like torture. Nothing. I guess the last day, 7 business days, would be Monday. So, but like at night, if I get an email notification, like wake up and open my phone, and it's like driving me nuts.
Probably hard to sleep, I'm sure.
Yes. Having bad dreams.
Yes, I know that the waiting is the worst. Well, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. It will be on mute and dark. Joyce, that's okay, Joyce. No worries. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Yep. No worries. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll unmute everyone when we're done. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to start off with the frequency word drill, just to get our fingers going. And here we go. Ready? Simple, according, character, effect, father, friend, horses, object, president, self, terms, training, won't, contract, else, greater, low, minutes, paid, pleasure, questions, social, task, whatever, address, support, announced, cold, enforced, figures, friends, instead, parts, reach, speak, trust, affairs, county, feeling, honor, main, nations, picture, property, reasons, south, therefore, white, allies, town, words, authority, car, control, community, experience, forward, everything, fine, goods, hire, none, sell, past, permit, saved, return, strange, suppose, today, total, turn, win, avenue, awfully, delay, demand, greeting, issue, laws, numbers, millions, ought, opportunity, plain, pleased, proposed, purposes, recently, sight, stood, summer, ton, onto, act, your, announcement, attitude. Right. I've got some allergies going on today, so my eyes are watering. That's why. All right, some names and addresses. Here we go. Ready? Pauline B. Collins, 192 North Denver Avenue, Denver, Colorado. Bobby C. Drew, 283 South Edgewater Road, Detroit, Michigan. Carl D. Ellis, 374 East Florence Lane, Portland, Oregon. Mason E. Flynn, 465 West Gage Circle, Las Vegas, Nevada. Bryn A. Barnes, 5760 Hanley Street, West Palm Beach, Florida. Tracy S. South, 646 North Canguna Drive, Lantana, Arkansas. Thomas R. Rogers, 535 East Jungle Road, Miami, Florida. Quincy Q. Richardson, 9312 West Grant Avenue, Reno, Nevada. Samuel I. Thompson, 424 South Indian Lane, Tucson, Arizona. Roberta P. Sutton, 3139 Hale Drive, Lake Worth, Minnesota. Nicole N. Quinton, 8210 North Furman Avenue, San Pedro, California. Evan M. Prince, 7100 East Eastview Drive, Delray Beach, Washington. Chanel L. Overlook, 9106 Dolphin Lane, Pauldero Beach, Georgia. Mason K. Newman, 895 South First Avenue, Lake Worth, Michigan. Laura J. Manley, 784 West D Street, West Palm Beach, Florida. Kathleen I. Lord, 673 North Carroll Boulevard, Denver, Colorado. Joseph H. Kirby, 562 East Brennan Place, Newport Beach, California. Katrina G. Johnson, 454 South Atkins Circle, Boise, Idaho. Sabrina F. Fowler, 343 Wabash Way, Chicago, Illinois. James E. Harrison, 2521 West Valley Terrace, Portland, Maine. All right. My next drill is going to be sentences that focus on final consonants with the BL, final BL. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? His voice was garbled as he dribbled. It's conceivable and believable the house was movable. Immutable means is not understandable. He purchased negotiable bonds which were negligible. Legible handwriting is reasonable. Notable nobles are innumerable. Operable machines are desirable. She may be obtainable, but she is so ostensible that it may only be observable. Palatable food is obtainable. If it weren't so objectionable, I know it would be attainable. Durable products are easily insurable. The Bible is full of parables. Employable people are penetrable and usually perceptible. Pebbles and marbles are not permeable. If you are perfectible, you will be passable. Perturbable people can't be perusable. Noble thoughts were missing from Grenoble. The popularity of mobile homes is global. Some people are lovable, some are horrible, but most are amicable. Okay. We've got some medical words. Oh, man. All right. And this is a continuation. So we're starting with the eyes. Okay. All right, here we go. Really? Ready? Iliac, immobilize, incision, index finger, infection, inflammation, ingestion, inhale, injection, injury, insanity, intestinal, intestine, intravenously, iodine, IV, joint, jugular, kidney, knee, kyphosis, laboratory, laceration, larynx, lateral, leg, leukemia, ligament, liver, localized, lumbar, lungs, lupus, lymph, mandible, medial, medical, medication, medicine, membrane, metacarpal, metatarsal, mucus, multiple, muscle, muscular, musculature, myelogram, myocardia, infarction, myocardium, myogram, needle, nerve, nervous, neuritis, neurological, neurologist, nodules, nose, nostril, nurse, occipital, occlusion, open heart surgery, operate, operating room, operation, ophthalmic, optic, organ, orthopedic, osteoarthritis, osteomyelitis, oxygen, pain, palpate, palpitation, paralysis, paralyze, parietal, patella, oh, there's a fly in here, pelvis, patient, penicillin, phlebitis, periosteum, physical, physician, physiological, physiotherapy, plastic surgery, pleurisy, pneumonia, posterior, practitioner, prognosis, prolapse, proximal, psychiatric, psychiatrist, psychologist, psychosis, psychotic, pulmonary, pulse, radius, recovery, reflexes, region, renal, respiration, respiratory, retina, rheumatism, rupture, sacroiliac, sacrum, schizophrenia, sciatica, sclera, sclerosis, sebaceous glands, sedatives, seizure, sensory, septum, serious, serum, severe, shingles, sinus, skeletal, skin graft, skull, spasms, spastic, sphenoid, sphincter, spinal column, spleen, splint, sprain, sterile, sternum, stethoscope, stitches, stomach, strain, superior, supine, surgeon, surgery, surgical, sutures, swelling, swollen, symptoms, synovial, systolic, tarsal, tarsus, teeth, temporal, tendon, test, testes, testicle, therapy, thermometer, thoracic cavity, thrombus, thumb, thymus, thyroid gland, tibia, tissue, toe, tongue, tonsillitis, tonsils, tooth, torso, trachea, traction, transfusion, transverse, trauma, traumatic, treat, treatment, triceps, tricuspid, tuberculosis, tumor, twist, ulcer, ulcerated, uremia, ureter, urethra, urinary tract, urologist, uterine, uterus, uvula, vagina, valve, varicose veins, vascular, vein, vena cava, ventral, ventricle, ventricular, venules, vertebrae, vertebral, vessel, viscera, vitreous humor, wash, wound, x-ray, xiphoid process, and zygomatic arch. All right. So maybe after class, you can go back and anything that doesn't show up, add those to your dictionary. Okay. All right. We'll go right into some jury charge and literary. Let's see. I'll start with the jury charge first. Okay, so my first set of jury charge, the subject is going to be contributory negligence. I'm sure you know the brief, TREG, T-R-E-G. You're going to hear proximate cause, negligence, N-E-J-S, passenger, recover. So recover, I hear it both ways as far as the brief. Just don't get it confused with revolver. I write recover, R-O-F-F-er, revolver. I write it as R-E-F-er, and then refer, I do long E. But some people like to do it the opposite. They write recover as R-E-F-er and revolver as R-O-F-er. So whatever you do, just, stick with it so you don't mix the two up. Admonishing, admonish is mosh. Circumstance is circ. Burden of proof, you probably know that, BRP or B-U-R-P. And then preponderance of the evidence, okay? So I'm going to start this at 180, and then I'll work my way up to 200, okay? All right, here we go. Ready? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, contributory negligence is a want of ordinary or reasonable care on the part of the person injured by the negligence of another, directly contributing to the injury as a proximate cause thereof. Contributory negligence may also be defined as a failure on the part of a person injured by the negligence of another to exercise ordinary or reasonable care to avoid the injury. One cannot recover damages for an injury to the commission of which he has directly contributed if the passenger is at fault, whether because of doing something he should not have done or in failing to do something he should have done, then he cannot recover any damages for injuries he has sustained. if the passenger's negligence has been a proximate cause of his injuries, he cannot recover from another who has also been negligent. But before you can find that the plaintiff is barred from recovery because of his own contributory negligence, you must find that his negligence was a substantial factor, which together with the defendant's negligence proximately caused the accident. If the plaintiff, in the exercise of ordinary care under the circumstances, should have been aware either that the defendant was unmindful of some danger known or apparent to the plaintiff, or that the defendant was not taking proper precaution in the operation of the car, and the plaintiff failed to admonish the driver or failed to take proper steps for his own safety, and if such failure to admonish the driver was a substantial factor in proximately causing the accident, then the plaintiff cannot recover even though the driver was negligent. But if you find from the evidence that as the car in which plaintiff was riding approached the place of the accident, the plaintiff exercised the care that a person of ordinary prudence and care would have exercised under the same circumstances with regard to admonishing the driver, then the plaintiff was not guilty of contributory negligence. The burden of proof rests upon the defendant to prove by the preponderance of the evidence that the plaintiff was guilty of contributory negligence. And if on this question you find the evidence evenly balanced or preponderating in plaintiff's favor, then you will find that the plaintiff was not negligent. So toward the end, I'd say about halfway through, I bumped it to 225. Okay, let me just date this. All right. Now, this next section, I'm going to read, it's the definition of proximate cause, but because it's only about 2 paragraphs long, I'm going to read it one time. Excuse me. I'm going to read it one time at 180, again at 200, again at 225, because it's about 2 paragraphs long, okay? So it's perfect. All right, here we go. Ready? 180. Proximate cause is sometimes defined as the direct or immediate cause of the accident. An alleged negligent act or omission is a proximate cause of an accident or injury where such act or omission is a substantial factor causing the accident. If a person has no reasonable ground to expect or anticipate that a particular act would or might result in any injury to anybody, then of course the act would not be negligent at all, and no liability could result by reason of such act or omission. But on the other hand, if the act is one which the party ought, in the exercise of ordinary care, to have anticipated was liable to result to injury in others, then he is liable for any injury approximately resulting from it, although he could not have anticipated the particular injury which did happen. Consequences which follow in unbroken sequence without an intervening efficient cause from the original negligent act are natural and proximate, and for such consequences the original wrongdoer is responsible, even though he could not have foreseen the particular results which did follow. Okay, so I'm going to read that again at 200. Here we go. Proximate cause is sometimes defined as the direct or immediate cause of the accident. An alleged negligent act or omission is a proximate cause of an accident or injury where such act or omission is a substantial factor causing the accident. If a person has no reasonable ground to expect or anticipate that a particular act would or might result in an injury to anybody, then of course the act would not be negligent at all, and no liability could result by reason of such act or omission. But on the other hand, if the act is one which the party ought, in the exercise of ordinary care, to have anticipated was liable to result in injuries to other, then he is liable for any injury approximately resulting from it, although he could not have anticipated the particular injury which did happen. Consequences which follow in unbroken sequence without an intervening efficient cause from the original negligent act are natural and proximate, and for such consequences the wrongful or the original wrongdoer is responsible, even though he could not have foreseen the particular results which did follow. All right, so now last time at 225. Here we go. Proximate cause is sometimes defined as the direct or immediate cause of the accident. An alleged negligent act or omission is a proximate cause of an accident or injury where such act or omission is a substantial factor causing the accident. If a person has no reasonable ground to expect or anticipate that a particular act would or might result in any injury to anybody, then of course the act would not be negligent at all, and no liability could result by reason of such act or omission. But on the other hand, if the act is one which the party ought, in the exercise of ordinary care, to have anticipated was liable to result in injuries to others, then he is liable for any injury proximately resulting from it, although he could not have anticipated the particular injury which did happen. Consequences which follow in unbroken sequence without an intervening efficient cause from the original neglect or negligent act are natural and proximate, and for such consequences the original wrongdoer is responsible, even though he could not have foreseen the particular results which did follow. All right. Moving right into literary. How are we doing on time? Good. All right. Do some literary. And again, I'm going to start at 180 and then I'll work my way up to 200 with this one, okay? All right, here we go. In these days, much of the profit and sometimes the whole of success depends upon utilizing the odds and ends, the so-called byproducts. The byproduct is something apart from the main article manufactured, and yet something that has an actual value of its own. For instance, in the manufacture of gas, there are many byproducts. These are obtained from the coal as the latter is made into lighting gas, and these byproducts, including the coke from the coal, actually suffice to pay the cost of the gas. The individual man does not manufacture as a rule, but we are, all of us, dealers in time. Time is the one thing we possess. Our success depends upon the use of our time and its byproduct, the odd moment. Each of us has a regular day's work that he does in a routine, more or less in a mechanical way. He does his clerking, his writing, his emailing, or whatever it may be, so many hours a day. And that ends it. But what about the byproduct, the odd moments? Do you know that the men that have made great successes in this world are the men that have used wisely those odd moments? Thomas A. Edison, for instance, was hammering away at a telegraph key when he was a telegraph operator on a small salary. He didn't neglect the byproduct, the odd moments. He thought and planned and tried between messages, and he worked out as a byproduct of his telegraph job all the inventions that have given him millions and given to the inhabitants of the world thousands of millions worth of dollars and new ideas. Benjamin Franklin, in his story of his life, shows an endless number of such efforts along the lines of using the odd moments. In 100 different ways, he managed to make the extra hours useful and productive. What a man does in his odd moments is not only apt to bring him profit, it is apt also to increase his mental activity. The mind craves a change, and it often does well the unusual thing out of the routine. The way to hunt for more is to utilize your odd moments. Every minute that you save by making it useful, more profitable, is so much added to your life and its possibilities. Every minute lost is a neglected byproduct. Once gone, you will never get it back. Think of the odd quarter of an hour in the morning before breakfast, the odd half hour after breakfast. Remember the chance to read or figure or think with concentration on your own career that comes now and again in the day. All of these opportunities are the byproducts of your daily existence. Use them, and you may find what many of the greatest concerns have found, that the real profit is in the utilization of the byproducts. Among the aimless, unsuccessful, or worthless, you often hear talk about killing time. The man who is always killing time is really killing his own chances in life, while the man who is destined to success is the man who makes time live by making it useful. Right. one more article for you before we start Q&A. This is on the Tobin James Cellars. It's on wine. Okay, here we go. I watched the movie Everest recently. It retells the fateful story of a climbing expedition in 1996. One part that resonated with me was the question put forth to the climbers as to why they are climbing Mount Everest after the requisite, because it's their response. We hear several climbers' reasons. All are different, from one chasing his demons to another wanting to show his young students that anything is possible. My wife Claire successfully climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro a few months back in October. Her reason was because our daughter asked to do it with her, and she did not want to miss an experience that she and her daughter, or our daughter, will remember their entire lives. Claire prepared hard, but was still completely challenged by how difficult it was. She would not have traded a minute of it. A day later, I thought back on the question of why and compared it to winemaking. Of course, in no way is winemaking a life or death endeavor unless you live or die by the critics' scores. But the question of why we become winemakers danced in my head. Are we out of our minds? Winemaking can be compared to mountain climbing because so much is out of our control. We start out the year completely prepared, and then Mother Nature laughs at us. It seems every year there is a new pest from another country that has no natural predators that threatens to destroy all of our vines. It seems every year that a new mysterious virus is infecting all of our vines. Then once the grapes are harvested and fermented into wine, there are tens of things that can go wrong in the cellar, as Mother Nature again shows us that she always has the upper hand. For 2 years, we must constantly watch our wines to make sure they are aging into adults we wish them to be. All at the same time, we handle another harvest that has nothing in common with the past one. Then we must bottle the wine. Wait a minute, I'm a winemaker, not a packaging engineer, but I must become one because just as many things can go wrong in bottling as during winemaking. Finally, I must find eager and awaiting wine drinkers clamoring to purchase my creations and willing to pass on the other 100,000 wines that are out there in the marketplace. I'll ask again, why does anyone become a winemaker? Every winemaker has their own story. Some may be as simple as it's our family business or it's a good living. My story is one that even I don't understand. I became enamored with wine when I was just 17. I began collecting wine then, even though I had never tasted wine. Go figure. It was probably my collector mentality, as I had collected baseball cards and comic books as a child. At the time, wine collecting just seemed the natural progression into adulthood. My parents did not drink anything, but I immersed myself in learning about wine, even though it was just a hobby. Reading textbooks for bedtime reading was the norm. Later, if you came to our family home, you'd better be prepared to have wine discussions. We started a clothing company right after my wife and I graduated college, and it grew rapidly. But our passion was wine. The purpose for the money we made from our business seemed to only provide us with better and better wine. After the recession in the early 90s hurt our clothing business, we looked at each other and said, why aren't we making wine? Long story short, we landed in Paso Robles, became partners with Tobin James, and learned how to actually make wine and not just read about it from the textbooks. Life couldn't be better. Not a morning goes by that I don't realize I'm living a dream, and that all of those unknowns and challenges I mentioned earlier are what make life so grand. Next time you are at a winery and you have a chance to chat with the winemaker when you're tasting their wine, ask them why they became a winemaker. Their answer could last as long as a sip, or you might consume an entire bottle hearing about their story. Everyone's story is going to be different, and that's what makes it so interesting, and why everyone makes wine uniquely different from anyone else. Since we're talking about wine, what else would I write about? What's happening at the winery? Well, glad you asked. As I write this, our 19th annual James Gang Festival is just weeks away. But as you read this, it will be a fond memory. We are already sold out, so we know it will be an amazing bash. Our summer parties always sell out as well, so plan a trip. around one of our fantastic parties. Great food, music, dance under the stars, and of course, the best wines, Tobin James Wines. Summer is a great time to visit, so please reserve your tickets. We are cruising the Rhone River this summer, 2 fantastic voyages aboard the Viking River Cruises long ships. We have 2 cabins left, so please contact us. So finally, what's in the box? Well, the famous Fat Boy Zinfandel, as well as 3 wonderful blends, among others. We have become famous for our blends, and these wines are no exception. The GSM is our first GSM to go into a wine club shipment. It is absolutely stellar. We won't be purchasing this blend again for at least 3 years due to the low yields we have received from some of our vineyards lately. So cherish and enjoy. All right. Moving right into Q&A. Start with some basic Q&A. And again, I think what I'll do with this one is start with, we'll start at 180 and then I'll work my way up to 225, okay? And plaintiff will be questioning. Okay. All right, here we go. Ready? What is your name? Austin Lee Jr. Where do you live? My home address is on Rye Street. How long have you lived there? For the last 10 years. How old are you at the present time? 30 years of age. What is your business? In other words, by whom are you employed? I am a pharmaceutical rep. Where is their place of business? On the other side of the street from where I live. Where did you live at the time that the accident occurred? The same address. You were called as a witness on behalf of the plaintiff and subpoenaed to come here today. Isn't that true? Yes, sir, that is right. Are you acquainted with the defendant in this action? Yes, sir, I am. Do you remember the day of this accident we are talking about in this case? Yes, I remember the date. Tuesday morning, November 18. All right. About what time was it? Do you know? About 6 o'clock in the morning, as far as I am able to state. Do you know whether it was light or dark at that point in time? At that time in the morning in November, it is pretty dark. As I understand it, there were 2 motor vehicles involved in this accident. Is that right? That's right. What kind of a car were you driving? A Dodge truck. Mr. Jones was driving a van. Okay. Just a moment. Just answer his questions. You were the driver of the car, is that correct? I certainly was. Was the plaintiff a passenger in your vehicle on the day of the accident? She was in the front seat of my truck on the right-hand side. Where were you coming from at the time of the accident? I picked her up from the hospital where she works on Long Island. Where were you going? New York City. What were the weather conditions? I couldn't tell you. Was it a nice day, good weather, as I recall it? Where did the accident happen? On Highway 495. As a matter of fact, you were under the influence of liquor, weren't you? Of course not. Bear in mind that you are under oath. Absolutely not, Your Honor. Can you tell us how many travel lanes the expressway had at that time and place? 4, including the breakdown lane. For the purpose of the record, how wide is the highway in that area? I didn't measure it. About how wide to the best of your recollection? As near I can remember, something like 60 feet wide. At what rate of speed were you going at the time? At the rate of about 50 miles an hour, I am inclined to think. Please tell the court and jury in your own words, as near as you can remember, how the accident happened. In a few words, I was coming in a generally westerly direction in the center lane. I saw Mr. Jones in my rearview mirror behind me in the right-hand lane. There was no other traffic. He was going at a fast rate of speed. How fast, to the best of your knowledge? Well, about 75 miles per hour. As he passed me, all of a sudden he swerved to the left of the center line in front of me. Just a moment. Did you apply your brakes? I applied my brakes, but I couldn't get out of the way. In a split second, we came in contact. He swung me around. Did you come to a stop? I came to a stop up against the guardrail of the median strip, completely turned around, facing the opposite direction. In a northerly direction, in an easterly direction. Pardon me? My passenger was thrown out of the car and landed in the middle of the street. May I ask, when your car came to a stop, what part of the van was it in contact with, if any? My rear wheel on the right-hand side and his right front wheel, to the best of my recollection. Go ahead. After the happening of the accident, a small crowd gathered, 4 or 5 people. No one else offered to help? Well, I asked someone else to call the police and an ambulance. You were very anxious to take her to the hospital, isn't that right? I felt it was absolutely necessary, yes. The ambulance arrived when? About 5 minutes later. Where did you go? After I helped to pick her up, I drove my car to the breakdown lane. What about Mr. Jones? The policeman took him to the police station. To police headquarters? To the best of my knowledge. Did you give your name to a police officer or anyone else at some time or other during this occurrence? Yes, sir, I did. Did you have any conversation with the defendant after the accident? I was pretty shaken up. I didn't go near him. I beg your pardon? I was too shook up. Going back for a moment, have you ever driven over that highway before? Yes, sir, I have very often. Have you any idea how often? I have often driven through the particular area. Where did you say the van was when you first saw him? How far away? How far? Can you tell me about how far away? I don't know exactly. About how many car lengths in your opinion? 5 or 6 car lengths. About how long is a car length in your judgment? I couldn't say. As near as you can judge. 18 or 20 feet in my judgment. Since the accident happened, did you ever say that you didn't see him at all before the accident happened? Absolutely not. I did not say that. I understand you to say, among other things, that your automobile came to rest near the median strip, notwithstanding the fact that you applied your brakes. That is correct. Taking into consideration those facts, could you say whether or not there were any skid marks or anything like that in the center of the street? I don't remember whether there were or not. By the way, how high is the guardrail? Do you recall? I don't know. I don't remember that. I know you didn't measure it. 3 or 4 feet, something like that. Were you and the young lady wearing seatbelts or a shoulder harness? Yes, we had seatbelts, but I don't think we were wearing them. Did you have an occasion during the course of the trial to refresh your memory from any documents with respect to the accident? What do you mean? Did I understand you to say you refreshed your recollection from nothing other than photographs during the course of the trial? Not that I recall. I don't believe so. How long did you remain at the scene of the accident? Did you say just now? I have no idea. In a little while, we arrived at the hospital. Excuse me, we have already established that. Have you ever had any other automobile accidents, say, during the last 5 years? No, sir, I have not. Are you sure? Of course. You are absolutely sure you were never involved in any other accidents? Wait a moment. Yes, in Boston, Massachusetts. Will you be nice enough to tell us when the accident happened? It was last year during the week before Christmas, and I want to know how it happened. I was driving in a southerly direction going south on High Street and started to enter the intersection with Federal Street, making a left turn. A left-hand turn? Yes, sir, I saw a pedestrian on the corner, a few feet from the corner. Standing on the corner? That is right. Was he on the street, the pavement, or in the sidewalk? On the curb. He stepped off the curb. Do you recollect whether or not there were any traffic lights or other traffic lights at that intersection? Yes, I had a green light and he had a red light. Go on. He walked diagonally across the street from me, southeast corner to the northwest corner. He stopped in the center of the street. In the center of the intersection? Yes. Was he at a standstill? He was standing still in the middle of the intersection. What happened? I thought he was going to turn around, but he came right up on the car and I struck him. On what part of the street? On the left-hand side of the street. What part of the car hit him? The left front fender. Was there any damage to your car in front? I don't think so. Did you assist him in any way? I went over and I helped him to get up. Do you know whether or not he was seriously injured? He said he was injured, but I don't believe he was. Wasn't he taken to the hospital? Not to my knowledge. Did you find out what happened to him? I heard that the guy went to the hospital quite a while later for a physical examination. Is that so? Due to the fact that he had headaches and low back pain and then had to stay in the hospital for a while, but that is all. So I started at 180 and worked my way to 225. You probably can tell when it's up to 225, I'm sure. All right, moving right into medical. Now this medical, the question is pretty long, so it's almost like I would just say like almost like a literary piece, because the question is so long, but it's still good. The subject is embalmer, and let me give you a word list. You're going to hear fatigue, embalming, embalmer, embalmed, digestive organs, chest organs, autopsied, internal organs, nasal cavities, oral cavities, pulmonary tuberculosis, tuberculosis. Okay. All right. This is it's going to be defense. Okay, how are we doing on time? Good. And I will read this at I'll read this at 180 since it's medical. Okay. All right, here we go. Now, doctor, assuming that while the claimant was still in school on summer vacation in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012, and on some weekends and holidays in those years, he was employed in the undertaking business as a general helper, that in March of 2013, after graduating from embalming school, he started to work regularly with his employer as an embalmer, that in July 2013, he was examined for life insurance and accepted, assumed that there was no record of tuberculosis in his family history, and outside of childhood diseases and the diseases mentioned in your report, he had no other diseases, that he worked regularly with only 1 or 2 days lost from work each year up to April 2007. In his first full year with his employer, he personally embalmed 54% or 167 of the firm's cases by himself and assisted in embalming most of the rest of the employer's cases, numbering 308 from March 25th, in an endeavor to get as much practical experience as possible with all the cases, and that his hours averaged from 12 a day with occasional periods during the entire time of his employment of 18 hours without sleep, and his meals irregular. On some occasions, the continuous work extended into a 24-hour period. Assume that in the year 2004, he personally embalmed 149 cases out of 405 for his employer and assisted with the balance of the 405. That in 2005, he embalmed 105 cases out of 445 and assisted in the balance of the cases. In 2006, he embalmed 125 cases out of 503 and assisted with the others. Assume further that his employer on May 22nd, 2007, wrote to the Durham County Hospital inquiring as to whether he would be able to resume his work of embalming, lifting, and carrying caskets with bodies after his discharge. The employer also stated that the hours of employment were most irregular, sometime covering 24 hours a day with a lot of physical work. Prior to April 13, 2007, except for a period of 3 or 4 months prior thereto, the claimant had not experienced any excessive feeling of fatigue or noticed any night sweats or loss of weight, and that he had only an occasional slight cough. That his first intimation of any tuberculosis condition was revealed on a physical examination at the Induction Center in Durham on April 13, 2007, for admission to the United States Army. And assume further that during the period of his employment, he states that he embalmed or assisted in the embalming of 17 autopsied cases of pulmonary tuberculosis and handled others which he cannot specifically identify in the years from July 26, 2003 to September 2006, and that these particular autopsy tuberculosis cases, which are listed on Exhibit A, the dates and names in the record on a previous hearing, were sometimes partially autopsied in his presence in the hospital and then taken by him and his associates to the embalming room of his employer in Durham, where the digestive and other chest organs were removed and handled by him. Assumed some of the body fluids came in contact with his skin, some of the embalming being done by him without the use of any rubber gloves, and that he smoked cigarettes during the course of such embalming, that some of the embalming work that he did was to clean the oral and nasal cavities by hand and to wash the nose, mouth, lips, and eyes and other parts of the tubercular body, and to sew up the mouth, the latter being performed by inserting his fingers into the mouth and stitching the lips closed, that on any part of the 17 tubercular bodies listed on Exhibit A, which he did not have complete charge of the embalming and handling, and that he assisted with the washing and sewing and removal of the internal organs, assume that you and your staff at Durham County Hospital, upon his admittance on and after April 2007, found no history of any specific event to cause this disease, except at the medical conference summary in April 26, 2007, Dr. Kelly stated as to his past history, probably professional contact, you have examined him as you have testified here today and as shown in your report marked Exhibit B. Now, can you state with reasonable certainty as opinion as to whether or not his work as an embalmer between the years 2003 and 2006 and the contacts with the tubercular autopsy bodies listed on Exhibit A, which he had as above described, were competent to have caused the tuberculosis condition which you found on his admission to Durham County Hospital and your last examination on January 24, 2009? Well, it seems to me that this is a rather long and complicated question for me to answer, because it seems to me some of the parts included therein I would have no opinion about. As far as the actual exposure, the history that I obtained myself, I would like to elaborate on that concerning working conditions, hours, and the time he was a student. I really have no opinion on that. I know nothing about that at all. The only thing I have is a history of contact as given to me and elaborate by me in my communication to you. I would like to comment on that if I may. And then, of course, it just stops from there. I wish we had more. All right. What are we doing on time? All right. So I'm going to give you guys some Q&A, and we can do a little bit of read back. And if you feel like, okay, I'm having an off day, you can pass. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start at, well, actually what I'll do is how are we doing on time? I'll start at 180 and work my way to 225. Okay. All right. And this is going to be defense again. There we go. At that time, were you employed by the state? I was employed by the state. In what capacity were you employed? State traffic officer. So that your job classification as of the time of the events that are the subject of this lawsuit was the same as now, except that you were working out of a different office. Is that correct? That's correct. On that date, were you driving a black and white vehicle? No, I was not. What were you driving? I wasn't driving. What were you doing? I was riding as a passenger. And in what kind of vehicle? A marked highway patrol vehicle. A black and white vehicle? Yes. And were you on duty at that time? I was. Do you remember the identification number on the vehicle that you were driving at that time? I don't recall the number. What was the type of tour of duty you were on? On the graveyard shift. That's the time. What was the type? Were you on enforcement or what? Routine patrol. Now, can you describe basically what routine patrol consists of? It consists of monitoring the freeways for vehicle code violations, assisting the motor public. Motoring traffic for vehicle code violations? Yes. And you said you were assisting traffic. In what manner? Disabled motorist. Anything else that is part of routine patrol that you can think of? No. And regarding this aspect of assisting disabled motorists, did you have some kind of booklet to guide you in how to perform these functions? No, I did not. And from where did you get your instructions on how to perform your duties in assisting disabled motorists? Most of it comes after you come out of the academy. You ride with another officer for 30 working days. On the date in question, had you just come out of the academy? No. Is there any reason why you were riding with this officer? Yes. What was the reason? On graveyard shift, you ride 2 men in a car. Is that policy? Yes, it is. What time does the graveyard shift start? At 10 p.m. Then am I correct in assuming that your education and training in the duty of assisting a disabled motorist came from whatever training you received in the academy? I don't understand. How did you know what to do as far as assisting the disabled motorist? This is given mostly through your training officer after you come out in the field and start working. When did you come out of the academy? July 24. Do you remember the officer that you rode with for the first 30 days after you got out of the academy? Yes. What was his name? Officer Jones. Now, am I correct in assuming that you had no training while you were in the academy on how to perform your duties in assisting the disabled motorists? A very short dissertation on it. What do you mean by that? We were to assist all disabled motorists. All right. Download. Okay, so I started at 180 and worked my way to 225. So if you want, we can all, take a question and an answer, but if somebody wants to pass, that's fine too. Okay. Oh, you guys had some, how do you write vein? I get vein. Okay. On read back. Okay, yeah, Joyce said pass on read back. Okay. Okay. No worries, Joyce. All right. So I'll go ahead and I'll go in this with you guys, okay? So I'll take the first one, okay? Or actually, Nora, do you want to take the first one?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me see. Okay. I have by defense question. At the time, were you employed by the state? Answer: I was employed by the state.
Awesome. Perfect. Donna, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Question: in what capacity were you employed? Answer: state traffic officer.
Awesome. Catherine, do you want to take the next one? Or I can.
Sure. I'll do it.
Okay. It's a longer question.
So that your job classification as of the time, I think I dropped here.
That's okay. So far it's good. Do you have of the events?
I have events.
Okay.
That are the subject of this lawsuit.
Do you have?
I have as the same as now, but that's not right.
Okay, that's okay. You're only missing one word. So it's instead of as, it's was. So
was the same as now, except that you were working out of a different office. Is that correct? Answer: that's correct.
Perfect. Okay, question. On that date, were you driving a black and white vehicle? Answer: no, I was not. I don't know if you guys like to phrase black and white, but I write it as B-L-A-T. Good one. Black and blue, B-L-A-D. And then I'll take the next one too. Question: what were you driving? Answer: I wasn't driving. Okay, Nora, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. It's question: what were you doing? Answer: I was riding as a passenger.
Awesome. If you guys want, we can take 2 questions, like QA. You want to take the next one?
Okay, sure. Question: and in what kind of vehicle? Answer: I have no idea what I wrote here. A marked highway patrol vehicle.
Awesome. Donna, you want to take the next two?
Sure. Question, a black and white vehicle? Answer, yes. Question, and were you on duty at that time? Answer, I was.
Perfect.
Question, do you remember the identification number on the vehicle that you were driving at that time? Answer, I don't recall the number. Question, what was the type of tour of duty you were on? Answer, on the graveyard shift.
Perfect. Question, that's the time, period. What was the type? Interrog, were you on enforcement or what? Answer, routine patrol. Question, now can you describe basically what routine patrol consists of? Answer, it consists of monitoring the freeways for vehicle code violations, assisting the motoring public.
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question. Monitoring traffic for vehicle code violations? Answer, yes. Question, and you said you were assisting traffic in what manner? Answer, disabled motorists?
Perfect.
Is that me?
It's you, yep.
Okay. Question, anything else that is part of routine patrol that you can think of?
Yep.
Is that right?
That's right.
Answer, no. Question, hold on. And regarding this act of assisting disabled motorists,
Do you have aspect?
I have aspect.
That's okay. That's okay.
Aspect of assisting disabled motorists. Did you have some kind of a booklet in how to perform these kinds of
Okay, that's okay. So after booklet, you should have to guide you. That's okay. In how to perform these functions.
okay, was it this kind of functions?
I have, according to what's down here, it says in how to perform these functions. Do you guys have kinds? Maybe
I have something there.
Nora, you don't have kinds?
No.
Okay. Sometimes I'll, add something that's not there. So.
Well, I added something. Okay.
No worries.
Answer, no, I did not.
Awesome. Awesome job.
Question, and from where did you get your instructions on how to perform your duties? I have and assisting disabled motorists.
Okay, that's okay. So it should just be in.
Oh, in, okay. Answer, most of it comes after you come out of the academy. You ride with another officer for 30 working days.
Awesome. Academy, do you guys write that as AKD? Yeah, that's how I write academy.
I wrote it C long A M D camed.
Oh, okay. Hey, that works. That works. Okay, question. On the dating question, had you just come out of the academy? Answer, no. Question, is there any reason why you were riding with this officer? Answer, yes.
Okay. Question, what is the reason? Answer, on graveyard shift, you ride 2 men in a car.
Do you have
Question.
what was the reason?
Oh, I have what is the reason.
What is, and again, maybe I said what is. Sometimes I say something different,
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me see. Question, what is the reason? Answer, on graveyard shift, or what was the reason actually? Answer: on graveyard shift, you ride 2 men in a car. Question: is that policy? Answer: yes, it is.
Awesome. Awesome job.
Okay, question. What time does the graveyard shift start? Answer: at 10 p.m. Question. Then am I correct in assuming that in your education and training in the duty of assisting disabled motorists?
You guys, do you have a disabled motorist?
Makes sense.
Okay, that's okay. No worries.
Disabled came from whatever training you received in the academy. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm reading my notes and it's hard. So it's not.
No worries.
You received from the academy?
Do you have in the academy?
It could be.
Yeah, okay.
I just threw in an O.
Oh, okay.
Answer: yes, sir.
Let's see. Do you have answer I don't understand?
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then is that one more for me? Oh no, that's it.
Yeah, I mean that was 2. Good job. Because right now, you guys, I had bumped it up to 225, so we were moving right here. Okay.
Question: how did you know what to do as far as assisting the, and then I dropped.
That's okay. The disabled motorists.
Answer: this is given mostly through the through your training officer after you come out of the field. Into starting something.
That's okay. And start working.
Oh, and start working.
Yep.
My fingers went all funky there. Okay.
That's okay.
Question: when did you come out of the academy? Answer: July 24.
Awesome. Okay, question. Do you remember the officer that you rode with for the first 30 days after you got out of the academy? Answer: yes. Question: what was his name? Answer: Officer Jones.
Okay. Question. Now, am I correct in assuming that you had no training while you were in the academy on how to perform your duties in assisting the disabled motorists? Answer: a very short dissertation on it. Question: what do you mean about that?
By? Do you have what do you mean by that?
I wrote about I guess I separated it.
Okay, no worries.
And I do not know what I wrote here. Is it we were on?
We were to.
Oh, we were to assist all disabled motorists.
Awesome. Great job, you guys. Awesome. Well, you guys did amazing. Let's see here. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything here. Vein. Okay, so as far as vein and vein, like I write vein like V-A-I-N, I just write it with the long A, and then vein with an E, like you're so vain. That one I would flag, but somebody else says they do the AE. So
I do the AE for VEIN.
yes.
Like, yeah.
Yep, I was just thinking that too. That's exactly what I do for VEIN. I do the AE for that one. Because I don't know, I kind of feel like the EI is kind of like the AE, you know? And then VAIN, I do just do the long A, and then VANE, I would just flag it. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. Well, any other questions?
Oh, actually, I keep wanting to ask, do you guys have a brief for injury?
Yeah,
what do you do?
I do JOIR, like Joyer.
I see. Okay.
I
Yeah,
do,
that comes up a lot, and I always struggle with it. So.
I do J short UR for injure, and then J long UR for injury.
Okay.
And then
so
for
J
jury?
short UR, then jury is just JR. No vowel.
Okay. Yeah, see, injury, I just write in and then G. That's what I do. In and then J long E. So yeah, I used to get those mixed up. Injury, injure. So finally, I just, jury, I write JUR. So I do it a little bit different than what the book says.
Whatever works.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I always tell people. If you see a brief and it's not sticking, just either write it out or come up with a different way to write it, as long as it works for you. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming to the live class. I love having all these students here in the live class. It makes it fun.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And have a great weekend.
Bye.
You too.
All right.
I'll text you if I hear anything.
Okay, Donna. My fingers are crossed.
Mine too.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.